Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of year. Give me them bear dons in the comments because Chicago Bears football is back. I am going to give you my 3 things to watch closely in the Chicago Bears first game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And it starts right now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page because we do talk Chicago Bears daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Bears how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So the Chicago Bears have their first preseason game versus the Kansas City Chiefs this Saturday at noon. Don't ask me to do nothing. Don't call me. Don't talk to me. None of that. Maybe we'll go live, but other than that, nothing, right? So I'm going to give you my 3 things to watch for in the Chicago Bears versus Chiefs opening preseason game. Here's my first thing, right? The first thing that I'm going to be looking closely at is Justin Fields and how he goes through his progression. Now, of course, right, we all talked about Justin Fields all offseason and how he's going to develop, how's he going to play. He doesn't have receivers, things like that. And those are things that we definitely can key in on. Those are things that we definitely can watch out for, right, when we're talking about where Justin's going to be able to have this leap in production. But the thing that I'm looking for is how is Justin going through his progression? How is Justin going through his options, right? I want to see him not only go through his first and second option, but sometimes get to that third and fourth, right? Because we've had quarterbacks that can be a first option guy. We've had quarterbacks that sometimes can get to that second option, and it makes things very easy for them. But we haven't had guys that are the elite of the elite that are able to get through their first, second, and sometimes get to their third option on a consistent basis. To me, if you're talking about an elite quarterback, that's what sets them apart, right? A guy that can realize what's happening on the other side on the defense. And I think Coach Flus will really have a good hand in that with Justin Fields, right? Being a defensive coach himself, he's kind of probably helping him figure out what's going on with the defenses that he's seeing on the other side of the field. And we've heard that he's in a lot of meeting rooms. So there's that objectivity of like Luke Getsy gives you the offensive side and then Coach Flus tells you, hey, and this is what we would do here. Normally I would like to see this. And so you have to watch out for this. Those are things that are going to help the Chicago Bears improve this season. And I think that Justin Fields just having the ability to kind of figure out how to read those defenses, really taking a step forward, right? Especially going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who had one of the higher scoring defenses in the NFL. And even though this is preseason, even though they lost a major piece in the Honey Badger, right, there's still some good defensive players on that team. And I think that's still a defense that's going to be good to gauge yourself against. Right now, I don't know how many starters are going to play in this, right? It's not like I'm going to say that if Justin looks great in game 1 of preseason, that I know he's going to be a great quarterback. I'm not saying that's the case at all, but there's still going to be a lot of looks that Justin's going to have to navigate that he didn't have to navigate more than likely, right, versus his own team and just kind of playing against a different level defense that actually can get in the backfield and hit you quite a bit. I think that's going to be the biggest difference there. And I want to see how Justin progresses through that. Now, before I continue with the video, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. What are you looking closely at, or what are you going to be watching closely this Saturday as the Bears take on the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't hit that like button and subscribe to the page, almost 50% of y'all are not subscribed. Hit that subscribe button, man. We talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. Appreciate you guys for showing love. You still ain't hit the like button though. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit it. All right, the second thing I'm going to be watching very closely from this Bears team this season is going to be how Braxton Jones performs at that left tackle position and if he can actually win that spot. We know that Braxton Jones has gotten a good chunk of the snaps at that left tackle position, probably about over 90% of the snaps at that left tackle position, right? Especially with the absence of Tevin Jenkins. They've really put him in there and allowed him to be the starter, pretty much going back to OTAs. And so there is that question mark, right? Like, did he win this job? Is he going to be the #1 option at that left tackle position? That's one thing I really want to watch close, especially because that all goes into how you grade Ryan Poles' job this offseason, right? If you were able to go out there and find you a day 1 starting left tackle in the draft in the 5th round, now you're talking about an excellent offseason. You're also talking about a guy that completely revamped this offensive line in one season. And that's going to be the most important key factor for getting Justin Fields to have that success this season. I mean, that left tackle is such an important spot, especially protecting Justin's blind side. And on top of that, right, if you don't have that left tackle, even if the rest of the offensive line is intact, it depends on kind of on the player at that point. But there's a lot of times, right, where the rest of that offensive line can be intact, but that backside not being there can really disrupt everything that the quarterback wants to do. From what we've heard, Braxton Jones has done an excellent job in training camp. He's been really a number one option. His day one, he's going up in pads. He's going up against Robert Quinn and Al-Qadiq Muhammad, right, making his life a little bit tough right off the bat. And so you feel really good that if he's able to handle the pass rush of those two guys, which the Bears have talked about him being able to do, that he should be able to kind of deal with what's going on around the rest of the NFL. But a lot of times, right, training camp, guys look like superheroes, guys look like rock stars, and then when the lights really come on, they're not able to perform at that same level. So I want to see if the Bears are going to be able to perform at that same level, if Braxton Jones is going to be able to play up to that level where the Bears think, yeah, he may have some mistakes, but he's definitely a starting left tackle right now. And you have to think about it, right? He's in a major competition right now, especially if the Bears don't plan on moving Tevin Jenkins, which it kind of seems like we're back to that narrative again, that the Bears aren't planning on moving Tevin Jenkins. But if you're talking about a guy that's in the biggest competition for this team, we've already heard that the Chicago Bears believe that Tevin Jenkins is their most talented tackle. I don't know why. Again, right, maybe injury, maybe it is what it is, but Luke Getsy expects Tevin to be competing for a starting spot at one of those tackle positions. So you're going to see Tevin in there. You're going to see Braxton in there. You might see Tevin even a little bit at right tackle as well. I kind of want to see how that ends up panning out and playing out and what they plan on doing there. I'm going to be focused in heavily on the offensive line because of how much that means to the Chicago Bears this season, how much that means to everything that they need to do. We've been saying this for how long now, right? Like, the offensive line is everything on that offensive side of the ball that the Bears didn't have. The Bears had wide receivers. The Bears had running backs. The Bears had guys that you could say if you protected them, they could have been decent quarterbacks. But guess what? They didn't have any protection for them. And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing coming into this season that you have to focus in on. And I think that's something that the Bears really are going to have, that I really want to see Braxton Jones take a hold of. Maybe not completely, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how much time he's going to play, especially if they plan on him being a starter, right? But that's something that in this preseason as a whole, I really want to see Braxton Jones just take a hold of that job. Braxton Jones really just take a hold of that job and not let it go. And we haven't seen anybody do that on this offensive line yet. And even Luke Getsy has said, I don't have my 5 solidified yet. I just, like, they asked him in a press conference, do you know what 5 you're rolling with? Do you know how this offensive line is going to look? No. So there's a lot of room for fluctuation here. There's a lot of room for guys to move around, and you're hoping that at a minimum, these guys, that one of those guys is going to snatch that job away. I hope that Braxton Jones is able to get it. And I hope that he proves what a lot of the Bears brass thinks right now, that he's a day one starting left tackle in this NFL. Now, the third thing that I'm really going to be looking at in this game is going to be how rookie Kyler Gordon matches up opposite of Jalen Johnson. I know Jaquan Brisker's another name that you really could key in on, but that cornerback spot was so abysmal last season opposite Jalen Johnson that you didn't really know, right? I didn't leave last season feeling like Jalen Johnson's a stud. We got a great cornerback here. I left last season feeling like he's decent, and so they didn't have a need to go to him. They didn't have to throw his way in the slightest, right? And so I'm looking to see, coming into this season, right, what this Bears DB position is going to look like, especially at cornerback position, and where how much competition is going to be opposite of Jalen Johnson, because I really want to know if you can solidify that, right, then you know if Jalen Johnson is this next level transcendent player that's really keeping guys from being able to get to their spots easily. It's really keeping guys from getting the ball. I mean, Devontae Adams had nothing but praise for him when he asked him who was one of the tougher DBs you played last year. That Jalen Johnson got the nod on that. I believe Cooper Kupp said something similar on that, right? Like, so you have this belief that this guy is really, really good, but they didn't have to go to those guys in games like that often, right? They just didn't, because the opposite of Jalen Johnson was Kendall Vildor, who was getting cooked every play, who, by the way, is still on the roster as well, which is interesting. But I think Kyler Gordon right now, game one, can really make a step here, can really take a step, especially just seeing kind of how they're going to play him off of Jalen Johnson and how they're going to work that in together and make all those pieces come together. I'm really intrigued to see that because I really want to see what this defense is going to look like, right? And I think this, right, that a lot of people talk about that defensive line as if it got dramatically worse. Like, oh, we lost Mack, we lost Hicks, we're a terrible defensive line. Just because you don't know the names of the guys on the defensive line doesn't mean that the defensive line is going to be god awful this season. They were 6th in sacks last season, and guess what? Yeah, we did lose Mack, we did lose Hicks, but what we brought in is still pretty good in Al-Qadiq Muhammad, who had 6 sacks last season. You already had a guy who had 18.5 sacks last season. I'm not expecting that again from Robert Quinn, but I think he'll still have a pretty good season if he's healthy. And opposite of him was Travis Gibson, who came in and absolutely dominated in his time on the field. So you have to look at those players and say, listen, this defensive line is still pretty good. And so that inverse effect that's going to play out could prove the perfect relationship for Kyler Gordon to really put his game into effect here early on, maybe being able to get some picks. We know that what we've heard about Kyler Gordon in his game is that his ball instincts are amazing. He just knows when to break. He just knows when to attack, and the fact that he's got Jaquan Brisker over top of him has helped him a lot, being able to gamble a little bit. He seems like he's going to be a little bit more of a gambling DB, which I'm fine with, right? As long as you've got that help over the top, I'm okay with you going after the gamble. I'm okay with you trying to get the ball out of there. We need somebody who's going to be a ball hawk at that position. Hopefully Kyler Gordon can be that. I think he's going to be a little bit more of a hard-hitting guy, a guy that's able to break plays up. But I really just want to see how he's going to affect the rest of this defense, because if that front seven is strong this season and the backside is at least decent, right? Like I think we think at a minimum, Jalen Johnson is a good player. Eddie Jackson, questions in the air, right? Even though he's one of the highest paid players on your team, I don't know if you feel like after last season, Eddie Jackson is this great safety that maybe Ryan Pace thought he was when he paid him. You hope that he is. You hope he's able to have that bounce back year. I also look at Eddie Jackson as a guy that hasn't had somebody that's really good standing next to him since Adrian Amos. So for me, right, like I look at Eddie Jackson with Jaquan Brisker next to him and say, okay, I think that could be a nice pairing over the top. I'd like to see Eddie Jackson and Kyler Gordon maybe gambling a little bit, trying to get that ball out of there, because we know Jaquan Brisker is going to be a guy that's that sure tackler. He was really that in college. And so it's going to be interesting to see what this Bears DB room looks like. Kyler Gordon's kind of the one that I'm focusing in on the most and watching closest, but I'm looking at all the DBs on this because I really want to see how they're going to be able to get after the ball. And you know, if we have that shutdown corner on our team. But as always, man, I want to know how you guys feel. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. What are 3 things that you're looking at in this game? Let me know in the comments below. I'm just excited that football season's back. I think that's what it comes down to no matter what. If you're not excited about a preseason football game for your team, you're not a football fan. It's weird to say, right? It's crazy, but I'm super excited that football's coming back. I'll be tuned in this Saturday. We'll be giving updates all week on the Chicago Bears, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. To continue watching our Chicago Bears content, click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.